So the Plas-101 Purifier just got a buff, and since I am a self-proclaimed master of said purifier, I thought I had to make a video about it, giving you guys my thoughts on this brand new version of it. Is it any good? If you previously hated the purifier, which I know a lot of you did, will you now possibly like it? And just generally, what do I think of it? So let's jump into it. I'm not going to write a script or anything, I'm just going to bang on about the purifier for 10 minutes, so let's do it. Alright, so the first thing we should do is talk about what the changes actually are. So the first one is increased projectile armor penetration to be the same as the explosion. So as far as I know, there used to be a problem with the purifier's projectile, where the projectile itself only was light armor penetrating, whereas the explosion was medium armor penetrating. So you would shoot it at, say, the front of a hive guard, and the round wouldn't actually penetrate, it would just explode on the outside. The explosion would do medium armor penetrating damage, so I guess the damage would be dealt to the medium armor part and also the light part behind it, but you wouldn't get any damage from the projectile itself, or the projectile just didn't go through, and so, I don't know, it just affected the amount of damage that you could output on medium armored areas. And that's now been fixed, so now the projectile itself is medium armor penetrating. So that's good, and there's definitely some changes in terms of the time to kill on medium armored enemies. I'll get to that in a minute. And the other change was that it decreased the explosion damage fall off. So if you remember from my I Mastered the Purifier video, I showed the blast area and the damage fall off. So the amount of damage that you would get from the edge of the blast radius on the Purifier compared to the Scorcher and compared to the Punisher Plasma. And the key thing with the Purifier was that at the edges of the explosion radius, it didn't do much damage at all. That's now been fixed, and now it does basically the same amount as the Punisher Plasma. So that's a good thing, I guess. Depends how you use it, but I'll get onto more details on that later. So in terms of the time to kill, really the only one that I noticed of any significance was the Hive Guard. If you shoot it directly in the head, previously it took 4 shots, now it takes only 3. Otherwise, I did do some testing on cannon towers and tanks and things with heat sinks, and yeah, I didn't really notice any effect at all. I thought there might be some decrease in kill time caused by the increased sort of splash damage on the edges, because often you're shooting on the sides of the heatsink as the cannon tower's turning or as the tank's turning, but I didn't really notice a change. It was still about 6 shots to get it burning and then 9 shots to kill, and yeah, it's the same as before. So yeah, unfortunately no change there. The only other one that I noticed that was maybe significant is that Brood Commanders can take 3 direct shots to the head to take their head off. I couldn't find any clips of me shooting Brood Commanders directly in the head with the old Purifier, but I think it was probably 4. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. But anyway, 3 direct shots to the Brood Commanders is not too bad. Other than that, yeah, Warriors still take 2 direct shots, which is disappointing. Devastators, I didn't notice any changes at all. The what's it called, Bile Spears and all of them, I didn't notice any changes there. There might be a slight increase, maybe 1 shot less, but otherwise, you know, yeah, I didn't notice a massive change. So in terms of how I feel about using the Purifier now compared to before, so it's definitely more powerful when you're shooting at groups. The splash damage, you're going to notice, definitely you're going to be getting a little bit more damage on the units around the explosion. So that's good. Direct shots aren't really, you know, you shouldn't be using this weapon for direct shots mostly anyway. So yeah, I think it's just kind of more forgiving in terms of, like, if you miss a shot, you're probably going to kill, like if you miss a shot against a hunter, you'll probably still kill it or deal decent damage to it. And you're going to be dealing better damage to groups. So just maybe 1 or 2 less shots here or there are going to be required to take out, you know, groups of enemies and stuff. So, but it's honestly not that major. I would say, actually, for me, the biggest effect is that the Purifier is now quite a bit more dangerous to use for the user. So because of the decreased explosion damage fall off, if you do get caught in the explosion, it's going to deal decent damage. And before, you know, if you got caught in it, it might deal like 10% health or something like that, and so it was okay if you shot yourself. but now if you shoot yourself even at like, you know, a meter or so, you're gonna like take off half your health. So the Purifier is now kind of a lot more dangerous to the user, and so therefore I've changed my loadout. I now use a slightly different loadout to what I recommended in my Purifier loadout video. So the loadout that I'm now using is I've switched out the laser cannon for a stalwart, and that's because the laser cannon's time to kill is just a little bit too long. Whereas the stalwart's pretty good, and if you're getting swarmed by hunters and stuff, the stalwart is just so good to take them out. And yeah, I just found myself constantly getting into a bind and having to use the Purifier at close range when I was using the laser cannon, and it just wasn't working at all. So I've switched to the stalwart. I think that's definitely a better option. I've also gotten rid of the jetpack because I just think I just wasn't using it that much, and I've switched that for I don't have a backpack at all anymore. I've switched that for the machine gun turret, which I really like. I think the buffed version of it is really good. You can just call it down constantly, so that's really good for additional like swarm support. And then because I've got that extra swarm support with the stalwart and the machine gun turret, I've gotten rid of the Eagle airstrike and I've replaced it with more Bile Titan capability in the rail cannon strike, the orbital rail cannon. So that's my new loadout for the Purifier. I'm finding that it's working really well. It's a great solo build. The Purifier is really good for the medium armor penetration and stuff, and for taking out groups. The stalwart is good for lots of light targets like hunters and, you know, all the little guys. The machine gun turret, you just call down constantly. You can have 2 out at once sometimes. It's amazing. And then, yeah, the rail cannon strike is good for taking out Bile Titans and, you know, charges in a pinch. So that's my new loadout. And, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say I prefer this version of the Purifier over the old one. It's sort of, I guess it's like less forgiving, because if you do shoot yourself, it just ruins you. And so I don't really like that. I think I would have preferred a damage buff. I think they really need to add like a 50 damage increase, just so that you can take out warriors with 1 shot. I think 2 shots for a warrior with the Purifier is just, it's overkill. The fact that we have to charge it up every time. Warrior should be going down in 1 hit, I think. So I would like to see a damage buff of 50 damage, and I would also like to see another scope. The scope at the moment, using the scope on this weapon is horrible because of the kind of glowy effect around the Purifier, and it's really hard to see. So I think they need to change it. They need to give us a longer range scope, maybe a 50 or 100 meter one would be better. Yeah, other than that, I think, yeah, those 2 changes would make the Purifier just S tier, if you want to give it tiers. But yeah, those are my final thoughts on the Purifier. Hope you guys found that helpful. Let me know what you think down below. If you like the Purifier now, where you hated it before, or if you dislike this version of it and you preferred the previous one, sort of a bit like I do, I guess. Yeah, and I do have to say, you know, I just want to finish with, I totally understand why people don't like this weapon. It is definitely the kind of weapon that you need to build your loadout around. You know, you can't, it's quite restricting in terms of what, you know, you kind of have to take a stratagem weapon with it, like a stalwart, laser cannon, machine gun, something like that. Otherwise, you know, you don't really want to be killing everything with the Purifier. You can, but it's frustrating. So I do understand the hate around it, and I do think it needs changing as well. I think it needs, you know, further improvements to make it viable, because it is quite frustrating to use. Especially, you know, I've just recently been using the auto cannons a lot and the sickle as my primary weapon. I made an auto maxing loadout video, which was really fun. And after using the sickle for like a week or so, it's not really great to come back to the Purifier. It's, you know, yeah, I kind of want my sickle back, honestly. Or the Dominator. If I want medium armor penetration, I just take the Dominator. So my love for the Purifier has definitely decreased a little bit. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think down below. As usual, like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you're not. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.